Ladies and gentlemen, we always take it a notch higher through informative and intellectual debates. This is the Great Debaters Contest Season 9, Eastern Region, Machakos County. I am your host, Chris Boru.
And I am Esperancia Kapanga. In today's debate in this region, we have a very contentious issue. The motion is, family planning education should be introduced in schools to reduce early pregnancy.
In the proposition, we have Mukaa Girls High School.
And in the opposition is Muvuti School. Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes.
According to World Health Organization, the leading cause of death for 15 to 19-year-old girls globally is complications from pregnancy and childbirth. And considering the age, these are girls found in our schools. I go by the name Wambua Masi, strongly proposing the motion that states family planning education should be introduced in schools to reduce early pregnancy. Family planning education refers to the information, means, and methods on how and when to have children. It entails family planning methods like contraceptives, how and when to use them. What about early pregnancy? This is the state of developing a young one in one's or female's body at an earlier age than expected. And note, it's at an earlier age than expected. I hear of school. This is a place where one goes to get education. One of the specific targets of SDG number 3 is to ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health services, including family planning education and information. This is only possible if we introduce family planning methods in our schools. If one is educated or one is able to know which method is most suitable for her, she will be able to choose which one suits her best. Let's go to the contraceptive services. Better contraceptive services, information when provided in schools, will reduce the number of adolescents getting pregnant. Countries like Sweden, UK, and New Zealand have already introduced adolescent pregnancy prevention programs in schools. An article by Adams J. Popal in his abstract, Popal Today, states that over 40 school-based health clinics, which provide general medical services and family planning services to high school students, have been established in US. And this has absolutely prevented teenage pregnancy. So Kenyans, why can't we take up the challenge? If our 15 to 19-year-old girls or boys are educated about this pregnancy, we'll have less number of school dropouts. Why? They will be able to control themselves. As we all know, recently even the primary school kids are sexually active. So when they know these methods, they'll be able to prevent themselves, and this contagious disease of school dropouts will be reduced in our country. I rest my case.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes to make your case.
Thank you so much. According to the Oxford Dictionary, what is family planning? This is the process of controlling the number of children you have through the use of contraceptives. What are these so-called contraceptives? We have the CDs that are commonly used by the youth and extras. To John F. Kennedy, if a society can not help the poor, it cannot save the ones who are rich. I go by the name Victor Musomi from Muvuti Boys High School, standing firmly to oppose the motion that says family planning education should be introduced in schools to prevent early pregnancies. To the first proposer, I have a question for you. Do the so-called contraceptives have any impact on the user? Kindly, I need your feedback. First point, economy of the country deteriorates. Let's take an example. Most of the funds that are used to educate the teachers on how to administer the knowledge of family planning through establishment of seminars, workshops, conferences. Take an example of the infrastructure that we have in the country. Some of the parts are impassable. Why waste our money to deal with things like contraceptives, family planning, rather than save that poor person who is in Turkana? Kindly. This is because the teachers involved in those activities end up being paid, they earn income, but what about that poor person? That poor person who is suffering in Mandera. The roads are poorly managed, no hospitals, no schools, no social amenities. Can't you feel that mercy? Pity. My second point, it leads to promiscuity or the moral decadence. As one is exposed to this education, you get to learn most of the contraceptives that you use, like the CDs. You are commonly told PPR, pinch, place and roll. But what happens? You go on acting on what you have heard. But the impact is, they tell us it cannot burst. Do you agree it cannot burst? Do you trust it? No. So, kindly, as we are here debating on this motion, let's look at the bigger picture, the impacts that this family planning education has on our lives. Thank you.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
If only she had the knowledge, she would have prevented what befell her. Only if she knew she had an option, then maybe, just like me, Sharon will be awaiting her national examinations. Many young girls have dreams that they hope to live, dreams of being great women in the society. But many of these dreams are washed down the drains by a number of factors. Sadly, the leading cause being early pregnancies. I strongly propose family planning education should be introduced in schools to reduce early pregnancies. Now, to our first proposer. You say that, you asked the question. I'm answering. According to statistics, WHO, no one has died because of family planning education, unless you tell me of a case. But for me, I've not heard any case of a person dying from family planning methods. Establishment of this education in schools is inexpensive and accessible as compared to normally when you get. Say, for example, those guys who come from Turkana, they will have to pay for the medical fee to get this consultation. But if this education is introduced in schools, the lesson is for free and they will not have to spend their money just to get education on family planning methods. Do the workshops, you say that through what you're talking about here is introduction of family planning education in schools, not through seminars or workshops. I mean, why should we risk our girls' lives just because in the expense of infrastructure? In Mandera, you find that in Turkana, for you to get this education from medical assistance, you'll have to pay for the fee. But if it is introduced in schools, our girls and our adolescents who are sexually active will get this education freely without payment. Family planning empowers girls. Family planning enables girls to make informed choices on the type of contraceptive they want to use, and through this they'll get to decide they'll get to decide to postpone the education so that they can get to use the time available right now to expound on the education, and maybe later on after employment they will decide that the time is not right for me to have the children I wanted to have. For example, take me as an example. I'm sexually active, but at the same time, I value my education just as much as I value sex. So I don't want to ruin my education because of early pregnancies. I'll opt to using these family planning methods so that I can postpone this early childbirths, continue with my education, finish my education, and maybe later on in life, I'll decide that now time is right for me to have my children. Thank you.
second opposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. A quote by Martin Luther King. On to my first point. Curiosity. We all know that curiosity killed the cat. The introduction of family planning education in schools would make these students curious. Curious in what way, you ask? Teenage is a stage characterized with curiosity. This is a period where most of girls and boys engage in sex and experiment. But we all know the outcomes. What do they say? Ilikuwa kibahati mbaya. Am I lying? That is the phrase used by common teenagers. Ilikuwa kibahati mbaya. Ilibust. Will we keep on arguing about the same thing? The contraceptives that we want us to learn in schools, what are their effects? Do they have effects? Yes. As the second proposer has asked a question, I want to answer her. These contraceptives, they bring effects on the bodies of our young ladies. In what way? We have cases of nausea, vomiting, and also they lead to the blocking of the uterine path. Any other question that you have, you can bring it on the stage. On to my second point. It is not universally accepted. This is by the Christians, Muslims, and all the other denominations. What am I trying to say? According to King James Version, Genesis chapter 1, verse 28b, it says, "Be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth." I hope you're getting my point. Fill the earth. Don't try to control the rate of birth. According to the Muslims, it is wrong for a person to engage into sexual intercourse before marriage. You can ask our Muslim brothers and sisters who are around. What I'm trying to say, family planning education should not, strongly opposing, should not be introduced in schools to prevent early pregnancies. I go by the name Ian Mutinda, ABC Muvuti Boys High School.
For the question session, the proposers have been asked, have they considered the effects of contraception, especially introducing them to such young people? The opposers, on the other hand, have been asked, with regards to their statement on the stand of religion, considering family planning and contraceptive methods, what about the people who do not subscribe to any of these religions? What happens to them? Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Diana was the name found suitable for me. Mukaa Girls High School, strongly proposing the motion that states family planning education should be introduced in schools to reduce early pregnancy. You asked a question that does family planning have effects? According to the WHO, it states that some of the family planning methods, such as the SCOS, reduce the chances of ovarian cancer because this is scientifically proven. And if at all it's going to reduce the number of ovarian cancer, it means that the effects are minimal. And therefore, if at all it's going to reduce this number, it is helping us. It is not affecting us in any way. According to the UN Population Distribution Handbook of 2000, a few years ago, a class of 158 students were admitted in a certain school after successfully completing their KCP education. After 4 years, we noted that only 142 students were able to sit for their KCSE, that is the national exam. Reason being, investigations were carried out, and in this investigation, it was noted that 2 of the students transferred from the school due to health condition, but 14 14 students out of the 158 students who were admitted in that school, they dropped out of school due to early pregnancy. I believe that once bitten, twice shy. Is this the Kenya we want to raise? A Kenya where our girls are not educated? A Kenya full of illiterate girls? I think not. Introduction of family planning education will help reduce the number of school dropouts. We know that in Kenya, the year 2016, 126 cases of early pregnancy were reported. This is a great number indeed. Simple calculation. If this is 126 cases, let's approximate it in 4 years. What will become? What will become of our nation, Kenya? In Netherlands and Great Britain, school nurses, the introduction of family planning was done. And this is, in the schools, there were hospitals built inside the school where the students can go and confirm, and they can go and get the more information. The more we enlighten our girls, the more we enlighten our future mothers about these, is the better for us. For we are creating a better Kenya. We know that most of our teenagers are sexually active, and telling them to abstain is not a method. It is not a way of controlling early pregnancy. According to the World Health Organization Handbook of 2007, family planning prevents 3/4 of pregnancy-related death as well as 44% of neonatal death. We have had many cases of girls who lose their child immediately after birth. The adolescent's body is not well developed. Therefore, it cannot handle pregnancy. It cannot carry pregnancy for 9 months. So I rest my case by saying that family planning education should be introduced in school to prevent early pregnancy.
Third opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond.
They say the sun set from the east and set from the west. Each one of us has a tradition. Each one of us has a tradition that entails that whatever you do has some impacts onto you. I want to answer the question that was posted. We know that there are traditions that entails that whatever you do, it has some impacts. You are not supposed to go and have those sex behaviors. You are supposed to neglect those sex behaviors according to the tradition's views. Even though you are a Muslim, a Christian, or a pagan, there's a tradition view towards that acts of sex behavior. On to my third proposer. She's saying that there are not long side effects, yet they are there. We know them. I know them. You know them. Talk about nausea. This continuous use of these contraceptive pills, they lead to diseases like nausea, vomiting. Will a girl in class will she concentrate with the study that the teacher is teaching in front, yet she has nausea? I'm opposing this motion. They are the diseases which cause. I rest my point.
Proposition, you have 1 minute for your final submission.
Family planning education is central to SDG number 1, which is zero poverty, and SDG number 3, which is good health and well-being. Not forgetting SDG number 5, which is gender equity. So, if we introduce family planning education in our schools, we know that economically, our country is not stable. So if we allow our children or if we allow our young ones to get pregnant anyhowly, where will the economy be going to? It will reduce the expectancy rate. And as we all know, access to safe voluntary family planning is a human right. And more so, we all know that good health and well-being, you're telling us that family planning has side effects. We need statistics. Where or what percentage of people have died because of family planning or these contraceptives? And you say condoms can burst. Yeah, but where are we told they burst? We need statistics too. As I conclude, I firmly and strongly propose the motion that states family planning education should be introduced in schools to reduce early pregnancies. I raised my case.
Opposition, you have 1 minute for your final submission.
The proposers, you're talking about the contraceptives having no effects. Yet, my own sister is back at home, a class 8 school dropout. What did she do? She engaged in teenage sex. She thought the so-called the condoms could work. But what happened? Where is she now? She's at home, doing nothing. Why that boy, that young man who did that act, is at school studying? Is that fair? I want to correct the third opposer. He talked about those effects caused by the contraceptives. We have the nausea and the vomiting. They are there. In fact, some of us even here experience them. But let's get to be realistic and look at the bigger picture. We have them and we experience them. I raise my voice. Thank you.
ABC, I felt you left out the main thing in this debate, that is early pregnancy. If it is family planning education that is to be brought in to prevent these early pregnancies, are there any other alternative methods that can be brought to prevent these early pregnancies instead of introducing this family planning education in schools? That point did not come out so well. If you could have taken that road, trust you me, you could have hammered your points home so hard.
From Mukaa girls, I think what stands out is that there's very clear role playing. We could see there was the first speaker who understood their role, second speaker in cross-examination, and then as well in terms of answering the question. So that was commendable. Second thing is, I think I would give it a pass in terms of your referenced submissions. We could at least hear a lot of referenced submissions from your end. I feel like you had the upper position to cross-examine the team because the boys at some point veered to just decide on looking at family planning methods, okay? And this debate being family planning education, then you could have had an upper hand to even cross-examine them and tell them they're focusing on a narrow-minded angle in terms of the motion, okay? So at some point, even when you're seated there as debaters, it's a challenge on you to listen in and even challenge their opposition as well, so that at least you can have an upper hand on that. Nonetheless, to both of you, this being a comparative debate, I think for the two teams, we can tell there's the family planning angle and then there's the reduction of early pregnancy. So those two areas needed to feature on. And I think my colleague has just put across that for you, Muvuti boys, you missed on that angle, okay? Because you focused more on the methods. Yet there is a whole bit of education that we need to tackle. So for you, the boys, I think I may not have much to say, but in terms of for you, in terms of role playing, Ian, cross-examination was not done. Mukumbu, yes, you've answered the question. However, you only took 1.5 minutes, and that was totally penalized, and you lost a lot of marks for your team. Even the definition of terms for the first speaker as well, I would give the definition to the girls first. So there's a lot of work to be done on your end as well as a team, but fairly done.
I felt that the focus was more on, is more or less like the debate was, should we introduce family planning contraceptives rather than should we introduce education? I thought we were talking more about education. And that level of education, more or less, that angle of education, as Judge Maina said, never came out so clearly. I think this is a topic that is very, very sensitive, and most of us might have a lot of materials. Mercy came out, of course, giving me an impression that some research has been done, which was a wonderful thing. And Marcia, I liked your eloquence. I might not mention everyone. This other side, we had Michael. I liked your passion, but the usage of time was very short. So, all in all, I think this being a debate that is outside here and very passionate to most of the people, even the churches, if we would have done serious research, I think we would have got more materials.
Muvuti, cool. The judges awarded you 60%. Let's give them a round of applause. Mukaa girls, the judges awarded you 67.2%, making you the winners of the debate. Congratulations to both schools for a job well done.
Esteemed audience, remember the debate is over, but the conversation still continues across our social media platforms with the hashtag GDC for SDGs. We've been your vibrant hosts,
Esperancia Kapanga.
Chris Boro.
See you next time.